we're still reeling from this year's incredible Xbox and Bethesda game showcase, and as well as all the stunning new titles that were shown off, a whole bunch of incredible new additions to the Game Pass library were announced. So, enough waiting, let's see what's hitting the library. First off, the absolute stunner that is Forza Horizon 5 will be tearing onto console and PC on the 9th of November. No series knows the value of being first better than the acclaimed racer, so it's fitting that Game Pass members will be able to get their hands on it from day one. This time around, the race is on down in Mexico. Kick up dust rolling through the desert, come charging through an unsuspecting little town, or watch the sun disappear behind a towering mountain. Whatever part of the country you're visiting, it all looks mind-meltingly good thanks to the game's lush 4K display. We can't wait to find out more.
The Left 4 Dead series has risen from the grave and returned more gruesome than ever. Back 4 Blood is the spiritual successor to the zombie-busting series, once again dropping you down into a post-apocalyptic nightmare where you'd surely be a goner if it wasn't for your secret weapon: friendship. I mean, you do also have a bunch of actual weapons like guns and grenades, but working together is still the only way to get the job done. You'll need to use the game's clever new card system to cover each other's backs and balance out each other's weaknesses. Or else one of the game's many monsters will have your buddy's brains for breakfast. Back 4 Blood will come stumbling onto Game Pass on October 12th. That's a day one, people, and it's the perfect way for you and your friends to kick off the spooky season.
Supergiant's mythological roguelike Hades already has enough Game of the Year awards to its name to make Narcissus himself look up and take notice, so Xbox gamers can rest assured that they're in for something special when it lands on Game Pass on August 13th. Playing as Zagreus, the sardonic son of Hades, your goal is to battle up through the many layers of the underworld to taste the sweet, sulfur-free air of the mortal realm. All of your early attempts are doomed to find you floating back down the river Styx, but the game is perfectly engineered to keep this death loop format from ever feeling stale. Each new run unlocks new weapons, adds to your abilities, and lets you spend a little more time chatting with your Olympian relatives, which is great because every single character in this game is wonderfully written, brilliantly voice acted, and unreasonably hot.
Age of Empire fans have had to wait a long time to get their hands on the 4th game, but that wait is almost over, with the game set to arrive straight onto Game Pass on October 28th. And subscribers can now pre-install it to make sure you don't lose any more time to download bars. The latest entry in the massively popular PC series will launch with 8 medieval civilizations from across Europe and Asia for the player to choose from, including the Delhi Sultanate and the Chinese. And you can expect each one to play really differently too. The English will be perfect for those seeking a more traditional Age of Empires experience, whereas the Mongols will be ideal for those who prefer more of a stick and move approach.
Microsoft Flight Simulator is another massive PC title, only this one is about to spread its wings and soar onto the Xbox Series X and S as well. The game has already been a huge success thanks to its meticulous recreations of cities and landmarks from around the world, giving you a bird's eye view of everything from the Eiffel Tower to the Empire State Building. And if you want to beat those birds down to Acapulco Bay, you can save some pre-flight time by installing the game ahead of its release.
The Xbox Showcase introduced us to a ton of cool new characters who we can't wait to spend more time with. But it's always nice to see a familiar face, especially when it's under that iconic green helmet. Halo Infinite might be the blockbuster release of this year, as the beloved sci-fi franchise takes that giant leap onto next-generation hardware. And is going to do so in style thanks to a cosmic 120fps frame rate, which will be available on the Series X even in multiplayer, plus a polished 4K resolution to keep that warthog looking shiny. Game Pass members can pick it up on day one. Everyone will be able to jump into the multiplayer mode for free, and seriously, have we not sold you on this already? Come on.
Over a decade and a half since we were first introduced to Raz and his fellow psychic oddballs, Psychonauts 2 is almost here. Since we last checked in, the gang's mind-bending supergroup has been led astray from its peacekeeping mission and towards some less wholesome activities. So it's once again up to the boy with the big goggles and the badass brain to put things right. Xbox Game Pass subscribers can now get Raz's next big adventure pre-installed ahead of its release on August 25th, and they can download the original to play while they wait. You'd have to be psycho nuts not to take up that offer. Does that work? Is that anything?
With the arrival of Like a Dragon onto Game Pass, the full Yakuza saga is now available to subscribers in all its neon-drenched, extravagantly tailored, shockingly violent glory. Ichiban Kazuga takes over as the series protagonist for the newest entry and drives the series in a bold new direction away from its roots and towards a turn-based RPG style. It's a gamble that pays off massively, leading to a Yakuza game which feels both warmly familiar and totally new. And the game's bustling cities and brutal fight scenes look all the more dazzling on the Series X and S, with a sweet 4K display and fluid 60 FPS frame rate to make every roundhouse kick into a real work of art.
Left 4 Dead fans are getting absolutely super served this year because on top of Back 4 Blood, there is another brand new 4-person shooter with a former Left 4 Dead and Portal writer in charge, the Anacrusis. From its sci-fi setting and physics-warping weaponry, it looks like it might be taking a few nods from the latter as well. Its crisp, clean aesthetic and crackling humour will be immediately familiar to anyone who spent time matching wits with GLaDOS. Only here, your guns get to do much more than move blocks around. The game takes place during an alien invasion, and you'll be facing down an endless horde of extraterrestrial enemies. The Anacrusis won't be arriving until fall this year though, so you've still got some time to work on your one-liners.
In recent years, we've seen developers pushing the storytelling capacity of video games into all kinds of weird and wonderful new directions, and 12 minutes looks like it'll keep that trend taking over nicely. With the voice cast comprised of Hollywood heavyweights Willem Dafoe, James McAvoy and Daisy Ridley, 12 minutes takes place within a time loop that is, you guessed it, 12 minutes long. Only don't expect the Hawaiian shirts and hijinks of Palm Springs. Here, you're enjoying a night in with your pregnant wife when a cop comes bursting in to accuse her of murder. The whole thing quickly takes a tragic turn before the clock rewinds, leaving you as the only person who remembers what just happened. 12 minutes will be giving a new meaning to the phrase replay value later this year, and it'll be dropping right into Game Pass.
Veles is a futuristic world controlled by a mega corporation called the Ascent Group, and it's also a place where things are pretty bad. And then the Ascent Group mysteriously collapses, leaving things still pretty bad, but an awful lot more exciting. The Ascent is an action RPG, which plays out mostly as a twin-stick shooter, as you battle for control against other factions to prevent the rise of a new corporate overlord, while also trying to figure out what exactly happened to the old one. This being a cyberpunk story, you can upgrade your character with all sorts of neat power-boosting add-ons, while the game itself gets supercharged on the Series X and S with lush 4K 60 visuals to really bring out the best of its bleak, beautiful world.
Shredders is looking to unleash the full power of the next-gen consoles to create the most tactile, gorgeous, and straight-up exhilarating snowboarding game we've ever seen. Made by a team of developers who are all real-life skaters and snowboarders, they're aiming to use next-gen tech and kick-ass physics to create a gaming experience that feels as close to the real thing as possible. Described as a game with multiplayer baked into the core, it looks like the next go-to hangout destination will be the snow-covered slopes of Shredder's dazzling mountain range. Game Pass members will be able to hit the slopes this December, so a white Christmas is basically guaranteed.
Just as Left 4 Dead fans can rejoice with its spiritual successors, fans of Baldur's Gate should be very excited about Dark Alliance, especially those with a Game Pass membership who can begin their new quest on June 22nd. Dark Alliance stays true to the co-op action RPG template of the original games, letting you party up with other like-minded dwarves and barbarians to adventure across its vast and dangerous world. On your travels, you're going to encounter more than a few fantastical fellows who aren't quite so friendly, so it's a good thing Dark Alliance also boasts a revamped combat system that includes over 60 different moves for each individual character. Turns out there's more than one way to skin a goblin.
There's a lot to be said for the cathartic hack and slash of Dark Alliance, but if you're looking for a more subtle brand of action, Aragami 2 might be your weapon of choice. Following up the hit 2016 indie game, Aragami 2 has you playing as a ninja whose highly refined stealth skills are bolstered by some shadowy superpowers. Your teleportation abilities can be applied in all kinds of ways, helping you slip away from the trouble, warp across large distances, or conjure enemies into darker, more stabbable parts of the map. Aragami 2 will be slinking his way onto Game Pass on September 17th, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled. Dude is all kinds of sneaky.
It takes place on a planet inspired by Star Wars with an art style influenced by Studio Ghibli and a soundtrack provided by Japanese Breakfast. So, while it's a cliche to describe something as unlike anything else you'll play this year, Sable seems pretty well equipped to cash that check. There's a tranquil minimalism to the game's core concept. You play as a young girl who embarks on a coming-of-age ritual in which she must explore the world around her in search of a mask. There is no set story beyond that and no combat. Instead, Sable encourages exploration, investigation, and puzzle solving. And, more than anything, it encourages you to simply lose yourself in the gorgeous world which the game has constructed.
So, bear with me a minute. Scorn is a first-person shooter where you play as a guy with no skin inside a world that seems like it might be a giant living thing and firing weapons that also appear to be made of organic matter. Which is all profoundly unsettling, but also sort of eerily beautiful thanks to the Series X's sublime 4K 60 display. It's like the prettiest nightmare you've ever had. It's a game specifically designed to fill you with existential angst while you blast your way through its bizarre world, learning a little more about it as you go. Although that's not to say it will become any less disturbing along the way. Xbox Game Pass members with the stomach for it can pick it up this fall on PC or Series X and S.
It's the internet's favourite game, the indie hit that launched 1,000 memes. Among Us is coming to Xbox consoles and to Game Pass later this year. For those of you who haven't looked at a screen or spoken to a person for the last 18 months, allow me to explain. Among Us is a multiplayer game where you play as the crew of a spaceship. As you wander around fixing up the ship and performing important admin tasks, one of your brightly coloured buddies is secretly trying to kill you all off. It's like Cluedo, but with more keycard swiping and less candlesticks. Among Us is already on Xbox Game Pass for PC, bigger and better than ever before, thanks to maps like Polus and the Airship, so you'll have plenty of fun locations to murder all your friends.
And speaking of popular games with cartoony visuals and sinister vibes, Hello Neighbor 2 will also be creeping onto Game Pass later this year. It's a super simple premise. You find yourself living next to a mustachioed fella who seems highly sus and decide to take it upon yourself to sneak into his home and see what's going on, ideally without getting caught. The thing which looks set to make this escapade even more knuckle-whitening than the last is the inclusion of an AI which will learn from every player in the community, essentially growing smarter and developing new strategies as time goes on after the game's launch. So they've basically created a robo-creep who grows more dangerous with each passing day. It's fine. This is fine. It's probably fine.
The Gunk comes from the indie darlings behind SteamWorld, and while it is buzzing with all their trademark charm, it represents a massive step up in terms of scale and spectacle. You play as a pair of space scavengers who bounce from rock to rock in search of valuables to harvest until one day they find themselves in a sticky situation. As in, literally, an entire planet that has been taken over by some kind of gooey parasite. Hoovering it all up and restoring the planet's natural beauty looks like it could be one of the most immediately satisfying experiences 2021 has to offer, with the Gunk scheduled to touch down on Game Pass later this year. So, there we have it. A bunch of amazing additions to Xbox Game Pass revealed at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase. All of a sudden, 2021 and beyond are looking pretty darn busy, right? Thanks for watching. Be sure to give us a like and hit subscribe if you liked the video. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Let us know in the comments which one you'll be downloading first, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to keep on top of all of the Game Pass comings and goings. Bye!